Please join me in Gasho. Naman loves, Naman loves, Naman loves, Naman loves. There's a little mouse. It's how a mouse running across. There's a little mouse that went running across back there. So if you see a mouse, don't be alarmed. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our regular Sunday service. And good morning to everyone here, as well as to those who have joined us by Zoom. We were exploring a fascinating phenomenon that seems to be happening where you can hear my voice, can you not? Yes? Okay. But for some reason you can't hear the bell, which is very interesting. Anyways, we'll begin this morning service with a moment of silent meditation, followed by the recitation of the name of the Buddha, or the Nembutsu. Naman loves, Naman loves, Naman loves, Naman loves, Naman. Next, we'll have the reading of our pledge. I'm going to actually bring it up on the screen here. People here as well. Roy says he's going to look for the mouse. We could hear something. Note to Ted, we need to get the exterminator in here, I think. Anyways, I hate to say that as a Buddhist minister, but there seems to be mice in our Onaiji. Anyways, we'll read our pledge together and you'll see it on the screen. Our pledge. Breaking out of my shell, I shall carefully share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall be open-minded and act accordingly, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I shall share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life we have received, I shall live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who continues to emancipate all. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And next we will have the chanting, and we're going to be chanting the English version of the Shoshinge, which you find in, oh, I should give out the red. Do you have the red seiken? I have it. No, thank you. It is page 106 of the red seiken, or for those at home, it is on your screen. No mandobs, no mandobs, no mandobs, no mandobs, no mandobs. In trust in the working of limitless life, bow to the light that surpasses all thought. The Bodhisattva Dharma in his seeking stage, Salokesvara Raja at his Buddha seat. He learned the causes and conditions of each Buddha land. Studied the inhabitants and all their qualities. On this foundation, he brought forth supreme aspiration, awakening the great vow, all embracing, vast and rare. Through ages of reflection, determining his vow, he reaffirmed his calling name would be heard everywhere. Thus he radiates his light, immeasurable and boundless, unhindered beyond compare, a dazzling, glorious place. Light that purifies the mind, light of joy, wisdom, light unceasing beyond thought, far beyond description, brighter than the sun and illuminating countless worlds, every being, everyone receives this radiant light. The calling name of the primal vow properly directs us. The vow of the sincere
trusting mind becomes for us the cause. Equal awakening is attained, confirming great nirvana. Because of the vast fulfillment, nirvana is surely attained. The reason that Tathagata came forth into our world was to teach Amida's primal balance as the ocean, now beings also boundless in this evil impure should respond in trust and take to heart Tathagata's true words. If for the briefest moment the mind of joy awakes, we realize nirvana, though our minds remain defiled. Worldly wise Dharma haters all will turn and enter as rivers pour into the sea, becoming of one things. The whole embracing my light always shines on and protects us. The darkness of our ignorance already has dispersed. Yet craving, anger, greed, and hatred, like dark clouds and mist, always cover up the sky of true insight and faith. As clouds and mist obscure the sun, covering its light, yet beneath and pure radiance, no darkness can be found. Receiving faith with reverence, discernment, and great joy. Without delay, we leap across beyond the evil realms. When ordinary beings, whether full of good or evil, hear and trust us, all embracing vow. Shakyamuni calls them all superior, clear-sighted. Such people are correctly named white lotus flowers. Amida Buddha's primal vow established number. Yet we have claimed evil views with the and pride. Can easily receive the truth with joyful faith. There is nothing that could be more difficult than this. The masters of the teachings from India in the West and all the noble monks who lived in China and Japan explain to us the graces came with the true intention to clarify the primal vow accords with everyone. Shakyamuni Buddha dwelling on Loka to the multitudes foretold one day in India south. Arjuna will appear in this world and destroy dualistic views of being not me. Transmitting Mahayana, the Dharma surpass. He will realize the stage of joy, be born in the land of peace, and teach that arduous practice is like struggling down an endless road, while joyful trust in the easy way is a peaceful voyage at sea. With mindful recollection of Amida's primal vow, without design instantly, we reach a certain stage, and with the soul eternal praising of Tathagata's name, let us repay the kindness of the great compassionate vow. Bodhisattva Vasubandhu in his discourse stated that he has surrendered to unhindered life, relying on the larger sutra. He revealed true virtue, made known that with the great vow we leap over birth and death through the power of the primal vow, transferring us his virtue. He revealed the single mind, delivering all beings, entering the all-pervading precious sea of merit. We surely will be numbered with the great assembly. To reach the lotus world, we realize true suchness. True Dharma nature is attained clearly without doubt. We play the forest of passions, yet manifest wonderful powers. We enter birth and death's garden, transform to benefit all. The king of the nation, China, revere master Tanwan, and daily bow toward his teacher, a bodhisattva in his eyes. When Master Bodhi gave Tanwan pure text, he burned his Taoist books and placed his trust in the land of peace. He wrote a commentary on Vasubandhu's discourse, reveal cause and effect of birth, both come from the vow. We depart and we return because of other power. Only through the mind of faith is Buddhahood assured. When the mind of faith awaits in ordinary beings, we are made aware that birth and death is nothing but nirvana. And when our faith we reach the limitless radiant light, we will save the myriad of beings everywhere. Tacho discerned on the noble path, attainment is hard to confirm and clarify the pure as a soul way to break through. Precise power practice of the myriad good works and urge us only to recite the perfectly virtuous name. He kindly taught us face aspects, pure mind, single and constant, guides us as the Dharma declines toward outward form and extinction, meeting the all-embracing vow, though dutiful, we reach the world of nurturing peace, realize the fruit of enlightenment. Shantao alone shone light upon the Buddha's true intent, empathizing with those who practice good and with the rebellious and evil. He made it clear that the radiant name is a cause and condition for birth, clearing the way for all to enter the sea of wisdom, the primal vow. We then receive the diamond mind, one and indestructible. Through one moment of joyful thought in oneness with Amida. With by day we acquire faith and joy and wisdom. Awaken to the way things are eternal and at peace. Genshin studied fully every teaching of the Buddha, chose refuge in the peaceful realm, imploring all to follow. Divided deep and single faith from shallow sundry practice. Distinguished birth in the true pure land from provisional attainments. He taught that even evil ones should simply say the Buddha's name. I too, he said, am fully in Tathagata's embrace. Though my defiled and anxious mind prevents me from perceiving it, the light of great compassion shines upon me ceaselessly. Our own master Honen understood the Buddha's teachings with compassion for all ordinary beings, good or bad. He caused the true essential way to flourish in these islands, proclaimed the selective primal vow throughout this evil world, returning to samsara's house, the wheel of birth and death. Results when doubt and lack of trust become the mind's foundation. But when the mind of faith awakes, we are quickly made to enter the home of pure tranquility, transcending all conditions. The Mahasattvas and masters, through teaching the sutras, save countless beings so defiled and corrupt. Now in our own time, both lay people and monks, let us trust with one heart what our noble masters have taught. The virtue of Amida's vow is shared equally by all, together attaining awakened mind. We are born in the land of peace. No mandals, no mandals, no mandals, no mandals. No mandals. Next, we will have the Dharma Talk, and we'll ask Roy Sensei to give the Dharma Talk today. So, Sensei.
Let's put our hands together and go, shall we? Everybody. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. And good morning, everyone. on the Zoom and people who are here. We have 4, 5, 6. Oh, very good. I know that it's become a habit whereby it's difficult to come to the services in the morning here physically, but I think that it is very important that we do so. Anyway, last night was quite interesting for me in that I watched the election results. And, my son said to me, Dad, why are you so interested in the results? And he said, I said, it's not the results. Well, the results are important. There's no question. But it's the meaning behind the election that really, I guess it just gets to me. And the reason why I say that is because in 1949, when the Japanese were given the opportunity to vote for the first time, and I can remember my mother saying to me, Roy, I was only 13 then, but she said to me, Roy, when you have an election, you must vote. When you turn to that age, you're able to vote. And she said, that is the sign of democracy. And I remember that very clearly. And I try not to forget to vote. And to me, it may sound very simple, but I think it carries such a depth of meaning. And so I think people often take things for granted. But really, I think there's a lot of depth to that. And anyway, keeping that in mind, what I did was I thought, well, last week I said to Grant Sensei, I said, Sensei, you've been so busy that if I could relieve you anyway, then please allow me to do so. And he said, would you like to do a Dharma talk this morning? And I said, well, it'll be my pleasure. So if I can relieve him and perhaps live up to some of the standards that he has made for all of us, I'll try and do the best I can. In doing so, I turned to a text that was written by the Gomonshu Otani Koshin, and it's the text is called The Buddha's Wish for the World. And I don't know if many of you have this or not, but it's one of the ones that I kind of reflect on because it is so easy to read. And I'm going to read a section, part of the text. And if you could just listen very carefully. And this is what he said. One day, Renyo Shonin picked up a piece of paper lying in the hallway and said, these things are the property of the Buddha. We should think twice before letting them go to waste. What Renyo Shonin wants to tell us is that even a scrap of paper belongs to the world of the Buddha, so we should not be wasteful. This does not apply to paper alone. Renyo is saying all things must be treated with care and not merely consumed for no purpose. And he continues with this. Among the basic tenets of Buddhism is the teaching of Pratya Samudpada, which is the word for, in Sanskrit, for interconnectedness. And he says, all things are interdependent, interconnected, and intricately joined together. While this is true of human life, it is also true of life outside the human sphere, as well as things outside of life itself, with nature as a whole being connected in this way. This is the truth of Pratya Samudpada. And so reflecting upon this excerpt from the text, I thought to myself, a piece of paper, which Renyo is referring to, he saw on the hallway, just a scrap of paper. And I said to myself, a sign, an example of interconnectedness. And I thought to myself, what made up that piece of paper? It's the cellulose that came from the trees that are abound about us. And it is the chemistry, the engineering, and all of the minds and hands that went into converting this cellulose into a piece of paper that we take for granted. We read from it. I take the Vancouver Sun and read it every morning. And if I don't have the sun, I miss it. And if I didn't have a piece of paper on which I can print this Dharma talk, I wouldn't be able to follow it as well as I would like to. And so, a piece of paper we often take for granted. Oh, let's just throw it away. But when you really examine it very carefully, when you look at the things that went into it, then you begin to realize and appreciate what has gone on. And this, I think, is interconnectedness. Just a piece of paper? I don't think so. Anyway, I looked up interconnectedness again, and I found a quote that I wanted to share with you because it goes beyond religion. And this is what John Donne, a 17th century well-known English poet, said. And I'm sure you've heard of this before. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, stated John Donne. And I thought to myself, you know what? There must be examples beyond just a piece of paper. And let's try and connect it to perhaps a human interchange or a human relationship rather than, as they say, a piece of paper. And it was interesting because I don't know if Maya Whittier's on the Zoom or not. But anyway, it pertains to her mother, Grace Nishimura, and then also to her husband, Takenori. And I guess Grace must have been, well, in fact, it's not a matter of guessing. I know that she'd been trying to get a hold of me and to give me this information or a bit of paper. And this is what she said, April the 4th, 2022, just a few months ago. She said to me, "Dear Roy, I fell before Christmas and scrambled my memory." By the way, Grace is living here in Maples, and she does attend our services occasionally. It is coming back slowly, but affects my spelling and thinking. Thank you for writing the article on the encounter with cancer in the month's light of the Dharma. It reminded me of the letter my husband, Takenori, she refers to him as Nori, stated in his sister's letter to Yukie, entitled Arigatai. She said, I checked the file to think whether I had passed this letter on to you or not. And she said, I checked the file and I guess I hadn't. I can't remember if I've already sent it, but it never hurts to hear how one's father made such an impression and was appreciated. All the best. And the person that she's referring to is my father. And I didn't know the relationship, but when I read the letter and thought about it, I said, there is a connection here. There is a connection which really gives me, it revives my memory. And this is a letter that her husband, Takenori, in 1989, January, 2 months before he died, he typed this letter in his computer, and it's unfinished. And he left it there. And I guess she must have gone to look. By accident or by purpose, we don't know, and she doesn't know either. But she saw this unfinished letter in the computer, which was addressed to her to his sister Yukiya living in Utah, United States. And let me just read a few statements from her letter, or from his letter. It says here, arigatai, meaning not the superficial direct translation of grateful or thankful, but quoting from the article, the happiness that comes out of deep reflection. The joy of arigatai is profound appreciation that wells out through the intricate. By Takanori, January 1989. And he goes on to say this, early fall, when in high school, I lived and worked with the Akune family to help them with harvesting their sugar beets. So it goes back to about 1948, I would think. We were there in 1942, so I was around 12, so 1948, thereabouts. And he makes reference to this. He says, my father, Mr. Akune, was the top kendo instructor in Canada. He had two public school boys, too young to work in the field, referring to myself and my brother. So I went to school and some chores after school, plus working and living weeks every fall gave me an appreciation of what is expected of myself. I also was his kendo student every winter. I always felt that since I worked for him, he expected me to be close to the Akune standard as a person and in kendo. And so what he is saying here is that as a child, he had this experience. And so 1989, 1949, that would be about 40 years. 40 years later, he's recalling this experience and typing this in his letter that he was going to send to his sister. And so to me, I thought, I'd like to share this with you because to me, this is another example of the interconnectedness, not of a piece of paper. Of course, it is a piece of paper because it's the paper in which I'm reading, but it's that encounter of human beings and that we don't know how our relationship today could affect our relationship later on. And at that time that he had written this letter, I am sure that he didn't know that Grace would be living here in Steveston, and she would be attending our temple, and we would be joining together in listening to the Dharma. And so it's very interesting. At the time that these things happen, we don't give much thought to it, perhaps. We don't give much cognizance to it. But who knows when and when. And so in this particular case, I just want to be able to thank Grace for sharing this letter with us or with me, and reminding me of the importance of interconnectedness, that what I do today can have an effect on what will happen later on in my life. And so with those words, brief as it may be, what I'd like to do is to thank everyone for coming again and listening to what I have to say. So may we put our hands together in Gasho, please. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Thank you very much, Roy Sensei, for that very reflective Dharma talk. And having heard that, maybe we need to let the mice be by themselves. They're interdependent with us as well. During the chanting, I saw the mouse come and it went down the stairs and it went over that way. So I don't know what to do with this, but we have a mascot. Let's put it that way in our temple. It could be. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Anyways, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for our Sunday morning service. Another beautiful Sunday morning here. I'm grateful for the beautiful weather, but I think we could also use some rain. But anyways, thank you, and I hope you do enjoy the rest of the day. And please join us. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good week.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone,
Bye.
thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Grant?
Going to
Thank
bring
you,
your
June.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Same.
June.
Yes.
How was
Okay.
was the audio okay?
Concho
Was the-
came in very clear, very loud, the concho
Okay.
bell.
Okay.
And the sutra was sporadic. It came kind of in and out, in and
Okay.
out. During the Nembutsu, we hardly heard anything. And
Really?
then, yeah, and so I just thought I'd pass that on to you.
Well, thank you. It's audio. I don't know what to do about it.
It's very complicated.
But it is complicated, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi,
Bye,
Ken.
Dan, Rose.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Roy, for your great Dharma talk.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Grant and Roy.